Think about a top-of-the-line industrial-grade lithium-ion battery.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right, so you buy it, you take it out of that really heavy-duty packaging, and it is holding this just massive latent charge.
Right.
I mean, it has the capacity to power a commercial saw or light up an entire construction site or, even jumpstart a heavy engine.
Tons of power.
Exactly, tons of power. But if it just sits there, tucked away in the back of your kitchen drawer.
Well, then it's basically a very expensive, very heavy paperweight.
Yeah, exactly. It is entirely defined by what it could do, not what it's actually doing.
The utility is literally zero. I mean, it possesses all the physical capacity required to completely change its environment, but without a conduit. That energy remains completely inert.
Right.
It's just trapped potential.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that concept, that trapped potential, that is the exact core of today's deep dive.
It really is.
We are looking at a short, punchy, and honestly incredibly unfiltered manifesto. It's titled, Push Yourself, The Brutal Truth About Success.
Catchy title.
Very. And our mission today is to take the sources provided and just completely strip away the comforting fluff of typical self-help advice, right?
Yeah.
We want to examine the raw, underlying mechanics of achievement.
Yeah, getting down to the bare metal.
Exactly. We want to figure out what actually separates the average from the unstoppable. And I'll warn you right now, you, the listener, this text does not care about your feelings.
Not even a little bit.
No. It starts right out of the gate by attacking the absolute most common trap people fall into, which is relying on their potential. The text states bluntly that potential means nothing without action.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that we live in a society that practically fetishizes potential.
Oh, totally. We do.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we constantly tell children they have boundless potential. Corporations hire entirely based on a candidate's potential. We look at a half-baked idea and we praise its potential.
Because it's safe.
Exactly. Praising potential is incredibly safe. It feels really rewarding to the ego because it carries absolutely zero risk of failure.
Right. I mean, you literally cannot fail if you haven't actually entered the arena.
Precisely. And the manifesto just tears that safety net away. It treats potential not as a compliment, but as a baseline requirement that is, frankly, completely worthless on its own.
It's just stored energy, like the battery in the drawer.
Yep.
But the text follows that up with a statement that genuinely forced me to stop reading and just sit there for a minute.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. It says, nobody is coming to motivate you. Nobody is coming to save you. It's on you.
Brutal.
It is. When you read something that stark, it poses this massive psychological dilemma. Like, is the realization that nobody is coming to save you, is that a liberating thought, or is it just terrifying?
Well, honestly, the terror usually comes first.
Yeah, definitely.
And there is a deep structural reason for that. I mean, human beings are heavily conditioned from a very young age to wait for external signals before initiating any action.
What do you mean by external signals?
Think about the modern educational system. You wait for a bell to tell you to sit down.
Right.
You wait for a teacher to hand you an assignment. You wait for a grade to tell you if you did it right. And then that just transitions seamlessly into adulthood, where you wait for a boss to outline your deliverables.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we're just conditioned to wait.
We spend decades subconsciously waiting for a savior, right? Like a perfect mentor or a sudden burst of inspiration or perfectly aligned financial circumstances just to give us permission to start our own pursuits.
We want the universe to, give us a green light. We want to wake up and just feel that magical surge of purpose that makes all the grueling work feel effortless and meant to be.
Which rarely happens. So by bluntly stating that no one is coming, the text forces an immediate and radical shift in what psychologists call your locus of control.
Locus of control. Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. So when your locus of control is external, you fundamentally believe that things happen to you. You believe success or failure is dictated by the economy or your upbringing or just luck.
The universe is pulling the strings.
Right. But by moving that locus entirely internal by stating it's on you, the manifesto completely strips away your ability to wait for perfect conditions.
And that's where the panic sets in.
Exactly. The panic sets in because your excuses just evaporate. But, and this is the key, once the terror of that sudden isolation fades, the liberation begins.
Because if no one is coming to save you, you also don't need anyone's permission to begin.
You hold the keys. You're driving.
You hold the keys. Okay, so if we accept this terrifying reality that no savior is coming, we're essentially left staring at a blank wall. The panic settles. We know we have to move, but without that external push, where does the initial spark actually come from?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. And the source provides an answer that draws a really harsh, unforgiving line between feeling ready and being ready.
Yes.
It says, quote, "Success isn't built when you feel good. It's built on the days you're tired, unmotivated, and ready to quit, but you show up anyway."
And this is a direct attack on the modern myth of motivation.
The myth of motivation.
Yeah. I mean, motivation is inherently an emotional state, right? And like all emotions, happiness, sadness, anger, it is incredibly volatile.
It comes and goes.
Exactly. It fluctuates based on how many hours of sleep you got, your blood sugar levels, or I don't know, even the weather. So building a long-term goal on the foundation of motivation is basically a statistical impossibility.
I look at motivation like the nitric oxide system in a race car.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. Like you hit the button, you get this violent, explosive burst of speed. It's thrilling, and it's great for overtaking someone in a very specific moment.
But it burns out fast.
Exactly. If you try to run an entire 500-mile race on nitrous, you will literally blow the engine to pieces.
Right. You need something sustainable.
You need discipline. Discipline is the transmission. It's heavy, it's mechanical, it's not sexy at all, but it is the actual mechanism that transfers power to the wheels mile after grueling mile.
The transmission is what keeps the car moving forward when the thrill of the starting line has completely worn off.
Exactly. The text argues that winners choose discipline over excuses because, well, motivation fades, but discipline shows up daily.
It's the daily mechanism.
But wait, here's where I have to challenge this whole choose discipline mantra, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
It kind of implies that we always have the infinite cognitive bandwidth to simply make that choice.
Sure.
But neuroscience tells us decision fatigue is a very real biological phenomenon. If someone is, working 2 jobs, raising kids, and barely sleeping, telling them to just choose discipline over their exhaustion borders on toxic productivity, doesn't it? Like, how does this manifesto differentiate between mere laziness and actual biological burnout?
And that is a really crucial distinction to make. I'm glad you brought that up. The manifesto is not advocating for the dismissal of clinical burnout or suggesting you ignore a legitimate physiological breakdown.
Okay, so what is it targeting?
What it targets is the everyday friction of the mind. Let's look at the mechanism of a habit. Most people view the days they feel tired, unmotivated, and depleted as exceptions to the rule.
Right. They think, today's a bad day, so I'll pause, rest, and get back to my goals tomorrow when my motivation returns.
Exactly. But the text flips that paradigm entirely. This raises an important question about how we categorize our bad days. It suggests that those tired, unmotivated days are not the exceptions, they are the actual proving ground.
The hard days are the real test, the actual workout for the brain.
Right. Because when you perform a difficult task while highly motivated, your brain isn't changing much. You're just riding the wave of dopamine.
It's easy.
It is easy. But when you are exhausted, when every fiber of your being wants to quit and you force yourself to take action anyway, you are engaging in neuroplasticity.
Oh, wow. So you're physically changing the brain.
Literally. You are thickening the myelin sheath around the neural pathways associated with discipline. You are proving to your brain that your actions are not dictated by your temporary emotional state. So discipline isn't a personality trait you're just born with.
It's an active daily choice made in the face of intense internal resistance.
Yeah.
So you're essentially tricking your brain into realizing that the feeling of being tired is just a suggestion, right? Not an absolute biological stop sign.
That's a great way to put it.
But once you establish that discipline, the work doesn't magically become easy. In fact, it often gets much harder because the initial novelty wears off.
The grind sets in.
Right. And this brings us to a section of the manifesto that requires a complete psychological reframing of how we view struggle. The text states that winners embrace the grind by rejecting shortcuts and hacks in favor of pure work.
And that is a deeply, deeply countercultural message right now.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
We live in an era of hyper-convenience where everything is marketed to us as a hack.
Yeah, 10 ways to lose weight without stepping foot in a gym.
5 shortcuts to passive income while you sleep.
Exactly. And to understand why we love these hacks so much, we have to look at biology.
Okay, lay some biology on me.
The human brain makes up about 2% of our total body weight, but it consumes roughly 20% of our daily caloric energy.
Wow, 20%.
Yeah. From an evolutionary standpoint, your brain is a massive energy drain.
So we are basically biologically hardwired to be lazy in order to survive.
Pretty much. We are hardwired to seek the path of least resistance to conserve calories for a famine that, in the modern world, is never coming.
So when you see a life hack,
Your evolutionary programming just lights up because it promises a reward without the caloric expenditure of effort. But the manifesto demands that you override millions of years of evolutionary programming. It tells you to reject the hack because the effort itself is where the value is forged.
the source text brutally rejects the workaround. Just says, no shortcuts, no hacks, just work,
Period.
period.
Yeah.
And then it escalates, claiming that winners use pain as fuel and view every struggle as training. It demands full ownership, which it defines as, and I love this quote, no blaming, no complaining, just results.
It's harsh.
Very.
Yeah.
And I want to dig into that no complaining rule.
Yeah.
Like, can pain really just be fuel?
Yeah.
Is demanding zero complaining a necessary psychological boundary to prevent a victim mentality? Or is it just, I don't know, bottling up frustration until you explode?
Well, it is about managing what we can call operational friction.
Okay.
When the text talks about not complaining, it isn't talking about ignoring genuine trauma or systemic injustice. It's talking about the day-to-day roadblocks of pursuing a goal.
The annoying thing.
The annoying stuff. Because when you complain about the difficulty of a task, you are expending valuable cognitive energy to reinforce the idea that the situation is unfair.
Oh, I see.
You are subtly shifting that locus of control we talked about earlier back to the external world. You're literally telling your brain, this roadblock shouldn't be here, someone else put it here, therefore I cannot proceed.
You're taking the energy you desperately need to climb over the roadblock, and you're wasting it by standing in front of the wall just screaming about how unfair it is that the wall exists.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source is advocating for a radical reframing of adversity.
How so?
Think about it in literal training terms. When you go to the gym and lift heavy weights, your muscles experience micro tears.
Right, you get sore.
It is physically uncomfortable, sometimes painful. But you don't complain about the heavy weights being heavy because you understand that the mechanical tension is the exact mechanism that builds the muscle.
The weight is the whole point.
Right. The roadblock isn't in the way of the training. The roadblock is the gym equipment.
Oh, I like that. The roadblock is the gym equipment.
Yeah.
So every setback, every failed project, every, rejection email, it's just a heavier weight added to the bar to build your resilience.
Precisely.
So when the text says use pain as fuel, it means taking the intense frustration of a setback and channeling it into a more aggressive, determined approach.
And taking full ownership means accepting that even if a setback genuinely isn't your fault, like, I don't know, maybe a supplier went bankrupt or a coworker completely dropped the ball.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. But it is still entirely your responsibility to navigate the fallout. The moment you blame the economy or your boss or bad luck, you surrender your agency to fix the situation. Taking ownership, even when it's totally unfair, is the ultimate assertion of control over your own life.
Right. So what does this all lead to? What is the ultimate payoff for all this relentless grinding, this structural discipline, and weaponizing your pain?
A bottom line.
The bottom line, the text boils everything down to a simple, ruthless equation that dictates our lifelong trajectory in school, your career, or really any personal endeavor.
The core mantra.
Yep, it culminates in this core mantra. Easy choices equals hard life. Hard choices equals easy life.
It's a brilliant paradox, and it plays directly on a cognitive bias known as hyperbolic discounting or present bias.
Present bias.
Yeah, basically human beings heavily overvalue immediate comfort and drastically discount future consequences.
We want to feel good right now.
Exactly. We struggle to connect the action we take today with the person we will become in 10 years.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially when we apply this equation to the micro decisions you face every single day.
Give me an example.
Let's use the classic one. Your alarm goes off at 5:30 a.m.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. So the easy choice is hitting the snooze button. You stay in the warm bed, you avoid the physical discomfort of the cold floor, and you get 20 more minutes of sleep.
Sounds great.
It does. But the hard choice is throwing the covers off immediately and going to work out. The timeline of how those two choices play out is where the manifesto's equation really reveals itself. Could you unpack the symmetry of that final equation for us?